It started like any other ordinary day. I had just come home from work, feeling the usual post-work fatigue, and was looking forward to my Amazon package that was supposed to be delivered. You know, the one I'd been eagerly waiting for? I checked my front porch. Nothing. Not a box in sight. I thought maybe the delivery guy had just missed it, so I checked my phone. Sure enough, the package had been marked as delivered about an hour ago. I went back outside and double-checked. Nope, still nothing. I felt that little voice in the back of my head saying, "This isn't right." So I began walking around my yard, trying to figure out if it was hidden somewhere, maybe behind a plant or the garbage bins. But nothing. I was starting to get frustrated now. Who takes a package like that? Especially one that clearly had just been dropped off. As I walked back to my front door, something caught my eye. A shadowy figure. It was quick, but I saw it. Someone walking away from my neighbor's driveway, holding something that looked way too much like my package. I froze. No way. Was this a setup? A mix-up? Or was this someone actually taking it? My heart started racing, but the worst part? I couldn't see who it was. That was the beginning of the nightmare, and it was only going to get worse. Stay tuned to find out what I did next. I couldn't just let it go. The stolen package. I mean, come on. Who does that? Who takes someone's delivery right off their porch? As the frustration and anger boiled inside me, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just going to sit here and hope for some miracle. I wasn't going to wait for the delivery company to track it down. No, I needed to take matters into my own hands. I had to find out who did this, and I had to do it now. I could feel my pulse quicken as I thought of the possibilities. What if it was someone nearby? Someone I knew? The fact that I hadn't seen anyone near my porch didn't sit right with me. There had to be a clue somewhere. I grabbed my phone and checked the Amazon tracking app again, hoping for a different update. But the message was the same. Delivered at 3:15 p.m. My heart sank. My eyes scanned the front yard, hoping to find the package tucked somewhere in the bushes or under a chair. But it was gone, just like that. I walked around the corner of my house and down the side of the street, trying to think of where it could have gone, but nothing. That's when I remembered. The Ring camera. I had one set up at my front door, and if anyone was going to come near my porch, I would have caught them on video. I rushed inside and quickly pulled up the footage. At first, I watched the delivery driver drop the package and leave, which seemed normal enough, but I kept watching, hoping for something, anything, that would give me a clue. And then it happened. About 5 minutes later, a shadowy figure appeared on the screen. A person wearing a dark hoodie walked up to my porch. I couldn't see their face, but the way they moved, slow, almost deliberate, was enough to make my heart race. I watched, glued to the screen, as the figure bent down and grabbed the package. They didn't even glance around to check if anyone was watching. They just took it and started walking away, disappearing around the corner of the block. I felt a knot form in my stomach. My hands were shaking as I rewound the footage, but there was nothing else to see. No other clues, no identification, nothing. I didn't know who this person was, and I didn't even have a clear look at their face. But one thing was for sure. Whoever they were stealing from me, and I wasn't going to let that slide. But what could I do now? I couldn't just accuse people without evidence, and the footage wasn't enough to prove anything. I had to track this down, but how? I stood there, staring at the screen, trying to come up with a plan. And then it hit me. My neighbors. They had to have seen something, right? I couldn't be the only one who noticed the figure walking off with a package. Maybe someone else had seen something, or at least recognized the person. I needed to talk to them. So, I grabbed my jacket and went outside, ready to start my own little investigation. First, I knocked on the house next door. Mr. and Mrs. Brown, the couple who had lived there for years, always seemed to know everything happening in the neighborhood. I figured they might have seen something. I rang the doorbell, trying to act casual, like I was just stopping by for a quick chat. Mrs. Brown opened the door, and I could already tell she was in a good mood. "Hey there, what's going on?" she asked with a friendly smile. "I'm just wondering," I said, trying to sound nonchalant. "Did you see anything strange around here earlier today? A car or a person near my porch?" Mrs. Brown raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. "Strange? What do you mean?" I took a deep breath and explained the situation, how my package had gone missing, and how I had seen someone take it on the Ring camera. She looked thoughtful for a moment, then nodded. Now that you mention it, I did see a red car parked outside earlier today. It was parked for a while, like it was waiting for something, but I didn't think much of it. My heart skipped a beat. A red car? That was the exact detail I needed. Do you remember anything else about the car? Was there anyone in it? I asked, trying to keep my excitement in check. Mrs. Brown paused, thinking. Well, I didn't see the driver clearly, but I did see someone get out of it. A person wearing a dark hoodie. They didn't stick around long, but it was enough to catch my attention. That was it. My mind was racing. A red car, someone in a hoodie. This was no coincidence. I thanked Mrs. Brown and rushed back home, my thoughts spinning. I couldn't just sit back and wait for the thief to make their next move. I had to act fast. I sat down at my computer and started researching. I didn't know much about the car, but I knew I could at least try to find out who it belonged to. It took hours, but eventually, I managed to track down the car's license plate number. I couldn't believe it when I saw the name attached to the plate. It was Karen. Of course, I should have known. Karen, the woman who had lived in the neighborhood for a few years, always causing problems, always stirring up drama. I had heard rumors about her before, but I never imagined she'd be the one to steal my package. This was no longer just about a missing delivery. It was about justice. It was about making sure that Karen couldn't get away with this. But now, I had a choice to make. How should I confront her? I couldn't just march over to her house and accuse her. I needed proof, real proof. I needed something that would make sure she couldn't deny it. So, I made a plan. I would catch her in the act. I would confront her, film her, and make sure she couldn't talk her way out of this one. The anticipation was killing me, but I had to be smart about this. I couldn't risk her getting away with it. The next day, I decided to go over to her house. I waited until the evening, hoping she would be home. It was now or never. I grabbed my phone, turned on the camera, and walked to her door. My heart was pounding in my chest. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. I knocked, trying to steady my nerves. The door creaked open, and there she was, Karen. She looked at me with that familiar smug expression, as if nothing had happened. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice dripping with that condescending tone I had grown used to. This was it, the confrontation, the moment I would finally get the answers I needed. But would Karen admit to stealing my package, or would she try to lie her way out of it? The suspense was unbearable. Would I finally get justice, or was this all about to blow up in my face? Stay tuned to find out what happened next. I stood there, my heart racing, as Karen stared me down with that all-too-familiar smug expression on her face. This was the moment I had been planning for, the moment I was finally going to confront her, the one who had stolen my Amazon package. I had all the evidence, the footage, the car, the hoodie. I was ready to get the truth, and I was sure she wouldn't be able to talk her way out of this one. But as I stood there in front of her, knocking on her door, something inside me shifted. I had expected this to be a simple confrontation, but now I wasn't so sure. There was a strange feeling in the pit of my stomach. What if she played it cool? What if she denied everything, making me look crazy? I wasn't prepared for her to turn the tables on me. What if this didn't go as planned? I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. I had to stay calm. I had to be in control of the situation. I wasn't going to let her intimidate me. "Hi, Karen," I said, keeping my tone polite but firm. "I need to talk to you about something. I'm missing a package, and I have reason to believe it might have ended up at your house." Karen's eyes immediately narrowed, and I saw a flash of something almost like panic, before she quickly masked it with a look of indifference. "What do you mean, ended up at my house?" she asked, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "I don't know anything about your package." I didn't let her deflect. "I have video footage of someone taking it from my porch," I continued, making sure she knew I wasn't bluffing. "And I know you were parked outside when it was taken. The person I saw in the video was wearing the same type of jacket you have, Karen." I could tell that the moment I said that, her demeanor changed. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, and she shifted uncomfortably on her feet. It was subtle, but I caught it. She wasn't as confident as she had been a moment ago, but she quickly regained her composure and smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, that's quite the accusation," she said smoothly. "I'm sure you must be mistaken. Maybe it was someone else." I shook my head, refusing to let her brush me off. "No, Karen, I'm not mistaken. I know it was you, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows it too." At that, Karen's smile faltered, just for a split second. But then, just as quickly, she plastered it back on and took a step forward, her voice turning colder. "You think you're going to get away with this? Accusing me of stealing?" she asked, her tone laced with venom. "You don't know what you're dealing with. I'll make sure you regret it." My heart skipped a beat. What was she talking about? I didn't know if she was bluffing or if she really had something up her sleeve. But before I could respond, she slammed the door in my face. I stood there, stunned for a moment, the door echoing with the finality of her action. Was this it? Was that the end of it? I had thought I'd come here for justice, but now I was left with a knot in my stomach and a sinking feeling in my gut. Did she just threaten me? What was she going to do? I wasn't sure, but one thing was clear. This wasn't over. Far from it. I didn't want to seem weak, but I was shaken. What if Karen really did have some sort of revenge planned? What if she was the type to make my life miserable just to get back at me? I couldn't shake that thought from my mind. As I walked back to my house, I kept my eyes peeled. Was she watching me? Was she waiting for the right moment to strike? The next few days passed in a blur. I didn't hear anything from Karen. At first, it seemed like everything was quiet. Maybe she was just trying to avoid me. But that didn't stop me from feeling paranoid. Every time I saw her car in her driveway, I couldn't help but wonder what she was planning. Was she working on a way to get back at me for confronting her? The uncertainty was eating away at me. I knew I had to keep my guard up. Then came the first sign that something was wrong. It started small. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. I walked outside one morning to find that my mailbox was bent and crushed. It wasn't completely destroyed, but it was definitely damaged. I looked around, but no one was in sight. Could it have been a freak accident? Or was this someone sending me a message? I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that Karen was behind it. After all, she had threatened me, told me I would regret it. Was this her idea of revenge? It seemed petty, but I wasn't about to let it slide. I immediately took a picture of the damage and sent it to the neighborhood group chat, hoping someone would speak up. The next few days, things only got worse. First, I noticed my garden gnome had gone missing. It was an old one, a little quirky, but it had been sitting proudly in my front yard for years. And then, my flower beds were trampled, the plants uprooted and scattered across the ground. I couldn't help but feel like this was no coincidence. Was it Karen? Was she trying to intimidate me? I didn't want to make any rash accusations, but the more I thought about it, the more the pieces started to fit together. Karen was always a little too quiet, always too composed, but now I could see her true nature. This wasn't just some petty theft anymore. She was playing a game with me, testing how far she could push me before I snapped. And every little thing she did was another step in her twisted game of revenge. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to confront her again, but this time, I wasn't going to just knock on her door and ask her about it. No, I was done playing nice. I had a plan. I would catch her in the act. I would make sure she couldn't deny what she was doing. I wasn't going to let her make me the victim. But when I arrived at her house that evening, I was in for a shock. I could hear voices through her window, low but distinct. It sounded like a conversation. I stood there for a moment, wondering what I should do. Should I listen? Should I confront her now? My heart was racing. What if I heard something that I wasn't supposed to? What if Karen was talking about me to someone else? What if she was planning something worse? The fear crept up inside me. Was I getting in over my head? And then, I heard it. The unmistakable sound of Karen laughing. Stay tuned. What happened next would change everything. I stood there, barely breathing, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts as I heard Karen's voice cut through the silence. The laughter was not the kind of sound I was expecting. Light, mocking, almost like she was sharing some private joke. It made my skin crawl, the way she was so casual about it. The sound of her voice, so eerily familiar, gave me chills. I didn't know whether to run for cover or face the situation head on. But I wasn't about to let her intimidate me again, not after everything she had done. I couldn't help myself. I had to find out what she was saying. So I stayed where I was, just out of view from the window, my ear pressed against the side of her house as I tried to hear the conversation better. I couldn't make out every word, but the snippets I caught made my stomach drop. She was talking to someone who sounded like they were in on whatever was happening. I held my breath, straining to hear more. And then it hit me. She wasn't just laughing about the package anymore. This wasn't some minor petty revenge. It wasn't just about me being an inconvenience to her anymore. She was involved in something bigger, and I had unknowingly stumbled into the middle of it. My pulse quickened as I heard her mention getting rid of the evidence and making sure it doesn't come back to bite them. What in the world was she talking about? My heart raced as the pieces began to fall into place. Was this about more than just my missing package? Was she involved in some kind of crime? Was she using me as a pawn in a larger game? I had no idea what was going on, but I knew one thing for sure. Karen was hiding something big, and it was far worse than I had imagined. The conversation continued for a few more minutes, but it didn't give me much more to work with. All I had were those cryptic words. It was like a puzzle with half the pieces missing, and I didn't know how to solve it. But I couldn't back down now. If Karen thought she was going to get away with whatever she was up to, she was sorely mistaken. I left her house that night, the weight of the situation hanging heavily over me. I couldn't just ignore it, not after hearing what I did. But what was my next move? I needed more evidence. I couldn't just show up and confront her again without something concrete to back up my claims. It would only make me look like I was making things up. That night, I stayed up late, researching everything I could think of. I combed through the neighborhood security footage again. I made notes on Karen's car, the time she was parked outside my house, and any other odd things I could think of. I was relentless. Every second counted. I knew I had to outsmart her, but I needed to be careful. This wasn't a simple theft anymore. She was involved in something more dangerous than I could have ever imagined. The next few days were a blur. Every time I saw Karen, I felt like she was watching me too. Her eyes lingered a little too long whenever we crossed paths. She always wore that same smug expression, like she knew something I didn't. It was like she was taunting me, daring me to make a move, and every time I tried to get closer to the truth, she pulled away, getting more guarded and secretive with each passing day. But I wasn't going to give up. I kept a close eye on her, watching her movements, looking for any slip-ups. And then, one day, I saw it. She was leaving her house with a large duffel bag. It was too big to be just a normal bag. It was packed, heavy-looking. It had to be something important. I followed her discreetly, keeping a safe distance, as she drove out of the neighborhood. My heart pounded as I watched her stop at a storage unit. She parked the car, grabbed the duffel bag, and disappeared inside. I didn't know what was in that bag, but I could feel the tension building. This was it. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I didn't know what to do next. Should I confront her now, right here at the storage unit? Should I wait and see what happened next? I decided to hold back and watch. It was risky, but I didn't have a choice. I needed more evidence before I could act. I couldn't afford to mess this up now. As I watched, Karen came back out of the storage unit, looking over her shoulder like she was making sure no one had seen her. She got back into her car and drove away, leaving the unit locked up behind her. I felt a surge of adrenaline. What was in that duffel bag? And why was she hiding it? I wasn't sure what to do next, but I knew this was big. This was the break I had been waiting for. Karen was involved in something, and I was going to find out what. My mind raced with possibilities. Was she hiding stolen goods? Was this a cover-up for something even worse? I had to know. The next few hours were filled with uncertainty as I debated what to do. Should I break into the storage unit? Should I confront Karen right now? The tension was unbearable. But then I remembered something that made my blood run cold. What if Karen was getting more dangerous? What if I wasn't prepared for what she might do next? She was already threatening me, and now she was hiding something. What else was she capable of? I decided to take a risk. I had to get into that storage unit. The question was, how? I didn't want to do anything illegal, but I couldn't sit around and wait for her to make her next move. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. And then, just as I was about to make a decision, I got a message. It was from an anonymous number. I opened it cautiously, wondering if it was some sort of prank. But the message sent chills down my spine. I know what you're up to. Stop before it's too late. Who was this? How did they know what I was doing? I had no answers, but one thing was certain. Karen wasn't the only one who was involved in this mess. Someone else was watching, and they knew exactly what I was planning. The tension was rising, and I knew I was getting deeper into something I couldn't back out of. But I was in too deep to turn back now. I had to finish this. The days after I received that chilling anonymous message were filled with uncertainty. But one thing was clear. I couldn't just walk away now. I was already too deep into this to back out. I had to keep pushing no matter what. Because I had a feeling this wasn't just about my stolen Amazon package anymore. This was much bigger than that, and Karen was somehow at the center of it all. I spent the next few days gathering every piece of information I could find. The mystery was beginning to unravel, but at the same time, I was more aware than ever that Karen had something serious to hide. It wasn't just petty theft anymore. It was something that could seriously affect people's lives. I had to act fast before things escalated even further. The first thing I did was contact the storage facility where Karen had gone. I didn't want to do anything that could jeopardize the investigation, but I was running out of options. I knew I had to get to the truth, and this was the only lead I had. It wasn't easy, but after some convincing, I was able to get a security tape from the storage unit where Karen had been. Watching the footage was like watching a bomb tick down to the final seconds. The video showed Karen entering the unit with that duffel bag, but it wasn't the bag that shocked me. No, it was the fact that she wasn't alone. She had been meeting with someone who looked far too familiar. It was the same person I had seen lurking around the neighborhood a few times before. The person who had been acting suspiciously, always around when things went wrong. I had always suspected there was more to it than just Karen's antics, and now I had proof. But this wasn't the moment for celebration. The story had taken a darker turn, and I was about to uncover even more disturbing truths. I had to act quickly. There was no time to waste, and Karen was getting more reckless by the minute. I couldn't let her get away with whatever she was plotting, and I couldn't wait for authorities to step in either. This was personal now. I had to take control of the situation. But how could I confront her without making myself the target? What if she got violent? What if she did something worse? I decided it was time to confront her, face to face. I didn't know if it was the right move, but I had to do something. I had to let her know that I was onto her. I gathered all the evidence I had, footage, screenshots, and recordings, and prepared myself for what was sure to be a heated confrontation. But I knew I couldn't just march up to her and demand answers. I had to be smarter about it. I picked a time when I knew she would be home alone. I made sure the evidence was safely stashed on my phone. I couldn't let her know I was planning anything. I knocked on her door, my heart pounding in my chest. When she opened the door, I saw the usual smug expression on her face, but there was something different this time. There was a flicker of recognition in her eyes, a realization that I wasn't the same person I had been before. She knew I had something on her. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my nerves in check. "We need to talk." Her expression shifted, and she stepped aside, allowing me in. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, I knew there was no turning back. "What is it you think you know?" she asked, her tone now laced with tension. "I know everything," I said, holding up my phone and showing her the footage of her meeting with that mysterious person at the storage unit. "I know what you're hiding, Karen." Her face went white, but it was quickly replaced with that same defiant sneer I had seen so many times before. "You think you know everything, but you have no idea what you're getting into." "I'm done being your victim," I said, my voice steady now. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who you are and what you've been doing." Karen's eyes narrowed, and for a moment, it felt like the world stopped spinning. We were on the brink of something massive, but just as I thought she might lash out or try to lie her way out, her expression softened, almost like she was considering something. Then she spoke, her voice much quieter now. "You don't want to do this," she said, her eyes searching mine. "You really don't know what you're dealing with." But I wasn't afraid anymore. She was just another bully, hiding behind her walls and her lies. I wasn't backing down. I made sure to record everything, capturing her every word. When I left her house that day, I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had the upper hand now. I had the truth. It didn't take long for the fallout to begin. Karen's secrets were exposed. The people in our neighborhood finally realized who she really was. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about protecting others from her deceit. Her web of lies started to unravel, and people began to rally together, supporting each other in ways they hadn't before. The drama didn't end there. It sparked a wave of conversations about accountability, justice, and how far people would go to protect what was rightfully theirs. The authorities eventually got involved, and the truth came out. What started as a petty theft turned into something much larger, a story that would be talked about for years to come. Karen's reign of terror was over. As for me, I walked away knowing that I had done the right thing. I had stood up, exposed the truth, and fought back against the injustice that was happening right under our noses. And the best part? I had done it all on my own, without backing down to anyone. But this story isn't just about me. It's about all of us. It's about standing up to those who think they can push us around. It's about exposing the truth, no matter how difficult it is. And it's about knowing that justice will always prevail. If you've been inspired by this journey, and if you want to hear more stories about standing up against injustice, make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for the next episode. You won't want to miss what's coming next, because trust me, this isn't the last time Karen's world is going to crash down. Subscribe now, and be part of the movement for justice.